Chapter 27, Section 3. Let's talk more about what was going on in the Mediterranean. By the end of 42, World War II was turning into the Allies' favor, thanks to us, our supplies, and our troops. And the Allies were interested now in opening up a second front. We needed to relieve some of that pressure on the Soviet Union. But we weren't ready to go straight at the Nazis in France and take back France yet. Churchill wants to move on what he called the soft underbelly of Europe, the Mediterranean. So by the end of 42, the Allies were planning Operation Torch. Operation Torch is going to be led by General Dwight D. Eisenhower. And on November 8th, 1942, approximately 65,000 Allies land at places like Casablanca in Morocco, and Oran, and Algiers, and Algeria. And access supply lines in the Mediterranean from Italy are going to be cut off by Allied ships and planes. By May of 1943, 250,000 Axis troops have surrendered. The Allies now have North Africa and can now focus on invading Italy. But before you get to Italy, you need to take Sicily. Once you take Sicily, you can then use that as a launching point to invade mainland Italy. It takes the Allies about a month to conquer Sicily. The Allied forces are going to be led by General George S. Patton. The Italian king realizes Italy's had it. And you know whose fault it is? It's Mussolini. And the Italian king is going to replace Mussolini as prime minister and order him to be arrested. But the Germans don't want to lose Mussolini and help him escape to northern Italy. They do not want to give up the Italian peninsula. In September of 1943, the Italian government surrenders. But the Allies still need to drive the Germans out of Italy. So the fighting will continue for months. During that time, Italian resistance fighters are going to capture and shoot Mussolini, where they hang his badly beaten body from the town square. And in June of 1944, Rome is captured by the Allies. Rome is the first Axis capital to fall. Meanwhile, while all this fighting is going on in the Mediterranean, you had campaigns that were going on elsewhere. Let's talk about the Atlantic. German U-boats were taking a drastic toll on Allied ships. Let's turn this battle around. And what's going to turn this battle of the Atlantic into the Allies' favor was a few things. One of which was sonar. Sonar uses sound waves to detect underwater objects. So that invisible U-boat could now be seen. You also have the use of fast escort ships for the convoys. So now that when they see a U-boat, those escort ships can speed ahead, take it out. And the Allies were bombing the U-boat and submarine yards back in Germany. So the U-boats had nowhere, no home base to go back to. By 1944, the Allies were winning the Battle of the Atlantic. The last thing we're going to talk about here is going to be air assaults on Germany. We're going to start bombing the crap out of Germany. There are two goals: destroy the German military production and to destroy the morale of the German people. This is going to be undertaken by us and by the British. The Royal Air Force, the RAF, is going to fly the night missions. Disadvantage of a night mission is you can't necessarily see your target as well, so they're going to drop bombs kind of in the general area of a target. But an advantage of a night mission is they can't see you as well to shoot you down. The U.S. is going to fly the daylight missions. This is where you could have more of that precision bombing when you needed to hit a precise target. But a disadvantage of the daylight runs is they can see you as well. So let's talk about one specific example here. We need to talk about the Dresden firebombing, February 13th through 15th, 1945. Us and Britain are going to drop bombs on Dresden. We're going to take about 4 different raids over these few days on Dresden, Germany, and drop about 3,900 tons of bombs. 7.8 million pounds of bombs are going to be dropped. But this wasn't normal bombing. This was firebombing. And firebombing has a few parts. Part 1. A wave of planes will come through and drop a large amount of explosives, basically to blow buildings open, blow the roofs off. Then you're going to have the next group of planes come through, and they drop what was referred to as fire sticks to now ignite these exposed buildings, light them on fire. And then a third round of planes is going to come through and drop more explosives to stop any firefighting efforts. This is firebombing. What you've just created was a self-sustaining firestorm with temperatures in the thousands of degrees. The air gets so hot and rises so fast that the cool air rushes in where it heats up and rises fast, and basically you end up with the fire sucking in everything around it as the cool air rushes in. You literally had people sucked into the fire. Results? You had around 15 square kilometers totally destroyed. Much more damaged. Around 25,000 of the 28,000 homes in the inner city of Dresden were destroyed. The amount of dead is not known. Estimates of 25 to 35,000 are given. There are some sources, not necessarily considered reliable sources, but there are some sources that have that number as high as 300,000. This is still a controversial event. The Germans said there were no war industries in Dresden. The Allies disagreed and said there was. And you have some in the world that still view this as a war crime and thought Allied people should have been punished for carrying this out.